What's up guys? Today's video is on the Sony Alpha A6100 review 2023. The Sony A6100 has been a long time coming. The company introduced the A6000 in 2014 and put so much tech into it that it's still relevant and on sale for a lower price years later. The A6100 modernizes the design by adding a touchscreen, 4 Kelvin video, and a best-in-class autofocus system. It's not quite the standout today as its predecessor was when it debuted, though, and enthusiasts might be turned off by its plastic exterior and lack of weather protection. But strong image quality and great autofocus make it a fine camera for vacationers and family photographers. Basics. The A6100 keeps it basic as far as control buttons. The top plate houses the shutter release, power switch, mode dial, control dial, and customizable C1 button. By default, C1 sets the autofocus mode, but you can reconfigure it if desired. The record button is at an odd place, nestled in at the right side of the rear thumb rest, so that it's almost on the right side of the camera. You can disable one-touch video recording if you want to, as it is possible to press it accidentally. If you do so, you'll need to switch the mode dial to the movie position to roll video. Other rear controls are more traditionally positioned. There's a flat command dial with a button at its center and 4 directional presses: display, ISO, EV, and drive, self-timer. There are also buttons to access the menu, lock exposure, play and delete photos, and to access the on-screen FN menu. The mechanical release for the pop-up flash is also on the rear, as is the EVF diopter. The FN menu is very useful. It gives quick on-screen access to your choice of a dozen settings, with a pretty good default set that lets you fine-tune the focus settings with ease, change the metering, and switch to black and white or another color profile, among others. While the LCD supports touch, the FN menu is only navigable via buttons. LCD. The 3 inches LCD is mounted on a hinge and can flip up and forward to easily frame selfies. The camera automatically enters a selfie mode, complete with a 3-second countdown timer. The screen itself is adequately sharp, 921K dots, and its default brightness is fine for most shooting. There's a sunny weather mode available that brightens it significantly, accessible via the menu. The electronic viewfinder is located at the corner. It's an OLED panel with punchy contrast and colors, and has one big advantage over optical finders: the ability to preview the scene just as the image sensor and lens see it. It's big too, with a 0.7x magnification rating, but not overly sharp at 440K dots. You can see the grid pattern in the screen when making or reviewing images in the EVF. The A6400 has a sharper finder, the same size but with 359K dots. Plastic. The A6100 will certainly earn some side-eye from photos who wouldn't be caught dead using a kit lens. But its plastic exterior isn't flimsy. The body measures in at 2.6 by 4.7 by 2.3 inches and weighs 14 ounces without a lens attached. It's a rangefinder-style design, with the electronic viewfinder positioned at the rear left corner rather than centered behind the lens. Power. The A6100 is powered by Sony's oft-lamented W battery. It's been in production for what seems like an eternity, used in the company's mirrorless cameras even back when they were sold under Next branding. If you're out for a day at the theme park, or bouncing around museums and other tourist sites, you should absolutely bring a spare battery or two. The A6100 is supposed to get you about 400 shots per charge, or about 2 hours of video recording time, but those numbers are a little optimistic. You'll get there if you shoot in burst mode, but fall short if you use the camera like most people do. Wireless connectivity also impacts battery life. The A6100 has the standard cocktail of Bluetooth, NFC, and Wi-Fi to connect to your Android or iOS phone. The camera works with a free app, Sony Imaging Edge Mobile, to transfer images and video from camera to phone. The app also works as a remote control, so you can set up the camera on a tripod and trigger a group shot with your phone. A single memory card slot, located in the battery compartment, supports SDXC cards at up to APS-C speeds, but doesn't take advantage of faster APS-C media. You can also use a memory stick duo card, but nobody will. The format is absolutely obscure. A left side door covers the small bank of ports. The A6100 has micro HDMI output, a 3.5mm microphone jack, and a micro USB port for data transfer and charging. You can top off the battery with a USB power bank, a definite plus for travelers, but we're disappointed to see Sony keeping the dated micro USB port here instead of the newer USB-C, especially when you remember that camera models aren't typically updated annually. Video. The A6100's 24MP image sensor isn't new. Sony and others have been using variations of it in sundry cameras for years. It's the same chip and image processor combination used in the 2 current generation sister cameras. the A6400 and A6600. RAW capture is also an option. Noise reduction isn't applied in camera, so images are grainier at higher ISOs, but they show notably more detail when you push the camera to ISO 12800 and 25600. The quality is quite rough at ISO 51200, but that's to be expected. The A6100 drops the flat and HDR video profiles offered in the A6400 and A6600, but doesn't cut corners otherwise. It captures high-quality 4K footage at your choice of 24 or 30 FPS at a 100 Mbps recording rate, and can record at 1080p as well. Video quality is excellent. Although the older image sensor's slower readout means that 60 FPS 4K isn't an option, and motion can show some odd artifacts due to the rolling shutter effect. Focused. The A6100 uses the same autofocus system as pricier models in the series. It's a good thing, as Sony is leading the pack in focus. The A6100 automatically detects faces and eyes for people, cats, and dogs. All you have to do is tell the camera to look for people or pets. Focus locks almost instantly. If you buy the camera, it will pay dividends to change some of its default settings. It ships with AFA enabled, a focus mode that automatically decides to lock in when acquired, or to keep trying to look for a subject as it moves. Other options include AFS, which locks focus once it's acquired, and AFC, which keeps looking for focus even after it's found it until you make an image, and continues to keep focusing for every shot if you work in burst mode. Manual focus is an option too. I recommend most photographers set the camera to AFC as it opens up the best focus feature, Sony's real-time tracking system, identified in the camera simply as tracking. It's one of those menu options that's grayed out in other modes, but it's worth looking for. In this mode, the A6100 automatically locks onto a subject and keeps following it as long as you keep the focus system active. It works very well, tracking moving subjects with aplomb. If you opt to use the burst mode, the standard high-speed option is 8 FPS, but there's also an 11 FPS high plus mode available. The tracking system keeps your subject in focus from shot to shot, even as it moves in relation to the camera. You just need to keep it in frame. Thankfully, the autofocus system covers almost the entirety of the image sensor. You can't keep shooting at 8 or 11 FPS forever, though. The A6100's buffer is good for about 30 RAW or RAW plus JPG shots before it fills up. If you use JPG format, you'll get about 75. You should expect to wait a bit for all of those images to write to memory. A full burst takes about 30 seconds. You can start making more images in that interim, but you won't be able to roll video until all images are on the card. Pros: light and compact, built-in EVF, tilting touch LCD, superlative autofocus, loads of lens choices, up to 11 FPS RAW capture, 4K video. Cons: not as well built as the A6400. Low resolution EVF, 4K video can show some wobble. Underwhelming battery life. Charging port isn't USB-C. A6000 successor. The Sony A6000 has been our top recommendation as an affordable mirrorless camera for almost the entirety of its life in the marketplace. It was absolutely unmatched upon its release, which has given it fairly long legs. But time marches on, and the A6000, still on sale for around $550 as a body only, is missing some of the features we expect in a camera sold in 2020. Specifically, it doesn't offer 4K video capture or a touch LCD. And while it can fire its shutter quickly, its autofocus system isn't nearly as fantastic as newer cameras. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more videos, hit the subscribe button. And if you have something to say, please leave a comment.